Handmade gifts can be so special and meaningful, but they can also end up in a drawer somewhere. So today I thought I'd share with you 5 ideas I came up with of stuff I'm going to make for my friends and family with clay that will hopefully be useful and not end up in a drawer somewhere. If you're not new to my channel, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. My name is Paula. I'm a full-time artist and I cannot wait to get creative. I am obviously using clay for today's projects, but I also wanted to let you know that I am using my Arrtx SIMPTAP markers because Arrtx was kind enough to sponsor this video, and these markers are just ideal for painting on clay. For my first idea, I'm using 2 rocks because I'm making this little bear I drew on my last sketchbook video, but I need him to be a little heavy. Why? Because I want him to be a charger cable holder. You know, so he can hold your cable and it won't fall off your night table. I'm also very excited because I got a bunch of new clay tools for this video and I've never used them before. Yay! To begin, I'm going to start sculpting the body of my little bear by placing the smaller rock inside some clay. With that first ball done, I grab my cable to check the size will be okay. And since it is, I now move on to plan out the size of the head. My illustration has a much bigger head than a body, so that's why I'm making calculations. I realized to make the head this big and have it dry sometime this century, I'm gonna need to wrap the rock with a lot of foil paper to create a much bigger ball that would only have a thin layer of clay around it. And of course, dry faster. Once I model the head, I attach it to the ball for the body and make sure that the bear can balance itself and stand. I make the joint of the head and body stronger by using a roll of clay that I smooth into both parts. And then my dog got scared. There was some strong noise from the construction next door and he climbed on the desk. He was feeling nervous and he laid on top of everything, so I had to move him to my lap to be able to work. He's a little bit spoiled. I wasn't able to film what I was doing because I had him on me, but I modeled ears, feet, and arms for my bear, which I attached to it. Once I put his little arms on, I made sure that they could hold the cable, which I used to create a little indent on the clay so it would fit better. I thought I was done with the sculpting, but then I remembered my character has an ice cream on top of his head. Because I was afraid of the bear losing its balance, I used a mini styrofoam bowl and a cone of aluminum foil for the inside of the ice cream and the cone. Of course, as soon as I put the ice cream on top of the bear, it fell to its side. I had to patiently rebalance it and add more clay to the bottom, and then it worked. Once it could stand on its own again, I kept modeling the ice cream to make it look smoother and nicer, taking care in sculpting all of the drops. Added a tail to the back of the bear, scored some lines for the cone, and left it to dry. 2 days later, it's dried and ready, and even though I worked hard on trying to create a smooth joint, it has many cracks. So to fix that, I got my trusted modeling paste out, and after testing that my figurine can indeed still hold the cable and stand, I covered all of the cracks with the modeling paste. I am using the markers to paint everything, but I always like to set a base of white acrylic first on top of the clay. So I've started painting and I'm loving it because these markers feel almost like coloring. Another thing that I love is that the brush tips can really help me do tiny straight lines and corners, so it's easy to reach into crevices. After coloring the cone, I moved on to the ice cream where I pressed on my marker a little bit too hard, and because these are so juicy, I had a bunch of paint coming down from the side. I wiped as much of the paint as I could, and then I finished painting all of the pink. Gave the bear another layer of white paint to erase the drip, and next was the chocolate, and again, so grateful for the brush tips. They are really useful in painting stuff like this. Of course, my painting is still not perfect, so I still had to correct very few tiny things with the white marker, which again, super easy. When I was done with all of the base colors, it was time to paint the details like its face and of course the sprinkles on the ice cream. For a second I thought the bear would look nice with some gray shadows just like my illustration had, but that did not look nice. So again I used the white marker to simply cover that up. My little bear is done, so I just need to varnish it and it will be ready. I'll show it to you at the end of the video because I forgot to film it by itself. Oops. Second idea, and we're making something simpler but super practical, I think. I am making some letter charms that are going to double as gift tags and personalized keepsakes. So for the first letter, I thought the best way to do it was gonna be to flatten out some clay, then draw the letter on, cut around it, making it thicker, and then add a roll of clay on top in the shape needed. This actually wasn't the best idea because joining the roll and the letter took a lot of time. I spent a lot of time smoothing things out. Anyhow, after a lot of fidgeting, I got it done. I punched a hole through the corner of the letter because I am using these as gift tags and I want to put some twine through so I can tie them to gifts. I decided I didn't want to take as long for my second letter, so for the second one, I just rolled a long clay roll and shaped it in the form of the next letter, which is a G. Then I made it smooth and nice and again punched a hole on the corner. This was much faster, so easy. For the last letter, I wanted to make an N. Again, just a long roll of clay that I'm shaping. And for this one, I wanted to try to make it a little bit more geometrical. So after I was done smoothing it out, I cut it with my X-Acto knife to get straighter edges. Again, made a little hole and done. Before allowing all of these to dry, I thought it would be a good idea to add a bunch of little magnets to the back of all the letters so my friends can keep them to hang on to something or can also put them on their fridge doors. With the letters dry, it was time to do the painting, which is my favorite part. Again, with the SIMPTAP, it's just so easy and nice that I even painted the back of this one, which was completely unnecessary. I chose a bright color scheme and I was thinking abstract rainbows maybe, or like modern lines. I don't know, I just wanted it to be bright and fun. When I was done, I wasn't really crazy about the color combo, so I went on top of some of the colors to change them a bit to less saturated shades. Once I changed the colors, I really love it, so on to the next one. For this one, I'm going to make it match the Christmas wrapping I'm doing this year. Every year I use recycled craft paper, and this year I'm adding gold ribbon on top. So I'm keeping the color scheme similar to that. I also painted it all white before starting, so I just started drawing a couple of branches with gold and filling the rest of the space by drawing two types of flowers, some bigger ones and the rest tiny. This was really easy and fast. If you need to make a lot of little gifts, these are it. Fast to model and paint and nice because they are personal. For the last letter, I'm going to use the same color scheme because I really like the idea of matching the letters to my presents, and I'm gonna fill it with little hearts. Once I had all of the hearts on, I thought it needed something else, so I added more color with tiny dots. I forgot to say on my previous craft with the cable holder that of course I'm varnishing all of these, and I'm using this varnish because it's the one I have at home. It says it's for canvas, but it works perfectly, so yeah. Here are the varnished letters. And I'm just going to embellish them further by adding some twine, ribbon, and tassels. Of course you can do without this, but I wanted to show you different options for adorning them and taking it further and showing them how beautiful they look. And so you can see it on a fridge, I put this one on mine. The tassels are too heavy for the magnets, but the letters by themselves with ribbon are not, so they hold on perfectly. Next, I am making an incense holder. This is not the most original idea because I've seen a bunch of little houses that smoke because they have incense inside, but mine has a tiny twist. Mine will be a tiny house sitting on a hill. To make it, I start with a ball of clay that I press into, working it into a bowl, like a pinch pot. I slowly smooth it out, and to avoid having scratches from my nails sticking into it, I use this wooden egg I have to create a smooth concave interior. Once I have the little dome ready for the incense holder, I flatten a little bit of clay for a base. I use the dome to measure the circle I need, draw a circle with my compass, and cut it out. I smoothed the edges and I took a piece out from the center to make a little indentation for the incense cone to sit on. And then again, I brought back the dome to mark its position on top of the base, and again, I scored that a bit for them to fit together. I also model, of course, a little house, and at first I thought I could make it in one piece and then empty it out. But that didn't work, so I ended up just ripping the top off, and I kept the empty walls. I used that rectangle to measure and cut the sides of the house, which I attached to that empty room. I then cut the roof, attached a little chimney to one side, poked a hole through it, and attached both pieces to the rest of the house. Then it was time to attach the house to the top of the hill, so I cut a hole for the smoke of the incense to go through it all. Attached the house, and I thought it needed more details. My first idea was to stick a toothpick in the background with a little cloud and a moon that I modeled, and that I would add little steps going up the hill and a tiny door to finish the house. I regretted the toothpick, so I removed it. It was a little too much, finished the steps, and covered the hole the toothpick left. 2 days later, it's dry and ready to paint. I was super proud about this one because it didn't take me that long, and I think it works perfectly. Clay always fails me, so I was very excited. I wanted a more rustic look for this piece, so because these markers are water-based, I took out a tiny bit of paint out from my marker by pumping the back. And then with a very wet brush, I grabbed a little bit of that pigment and I started going over my piece. As you can see, I got this beautiful kind of vintage watercolory wash effect. I used the same technique for the roof of the house, but painted the walls straight with a marker. Then I started having tons of fun by adding details. Painted the door and drew grass all over the hill. This part was so much fun and so easy with the super pointy brush nibs. I also painted tiles on the roof and chimney with different colors. I was even able to paint a tiny orange heart on the door of the house. Too cute. Finished by adding some colorful dots to look like flowers, and yeah, I was done again. So varnished everything and bought some incense for it, of course, and I'll show it to you smoking at the end of the video. Next idea is a ring dish, and I know ring dishes are not the most original idea, but they are always useful, and I had a cute idea for mine. I found this old drawing I made on my ideas sketchbook. I saw it and I thought it would make a super cute ring dish. So again, I flattened out some clay and I decided to grab a circle to aid me in drawing its very circular body. Drew the extremities and head, but I miscalculated the space, so it didn't fit at first, but after I rotated my clay, it fit. So I drew the cat and cut it out. After I cut it, I smoothed the sides with some water, and then I just slightly bent everything in to create a tiny bowl shape. As I pulled my flat cat in to make it into a bowl, I had to fold it in some areas so it would stay up. I smoothed out those folds so they wouldn't show and added the rest of the details the cat had in my drawing. You know, its eyes, paws, and the little hearts. I also scored some lines with my tools to make it look like the stitches in the drawing, and I was done. When it dried, I also painted it with white acrylic first, and then I started to add color with the markers. I have to tell you, painting with these markers is so relaxing. It's just like coloring. It feels smooth and nice. Just like all the coloring I've been doing with alcohol markers, where you don't have to worry about getting stripes or an uneven finish because it dries perfectly. Which leads me to a shameless plug. In case you haven't seen it, I've published my own coloring book. It is in the simple and bold style, and it's a joy to color in. Such a relaxing meditative practice. You can literally color yourself relax. At least that's what I do at nights. I'm obsessed with it. It's called It's the Little Things, and all of the illustrations I made for it are inspired by some little thing I'm thankful for each day. My book is available on Amazon. I'll link it in the description, and be sure to grab a copy so we can color together. And thank you in advance for that. Back to my cat. I changed my mind about the colors, so I'm just painting over everything with a different color. That's another beautiful thing about acrylic markers. They are obviously just like acrylic paint. You can just paint over stuff and change the color. So yeah, change the color for the belly, and then I just had to change the color for the whole cat. Once I was happy with those second colors, I started to paint the details like the hearts and added some stripes and spots to the cat to give it more personality. Then I brought my black marker to paint the eyes and all of the stitch details. Added eye shinies with the white marker and it's done. I'll show it to you after it's varnished. For my last idea of DIY gift that I'm sure people will love, I'm again flattening a lot of clay because I'm making some cute napkin holders. To do that, I start by cutting strips of clay. I cut the ends of each strip in an angle so I can easily join them to create the rings. Once I make the joint, I take some time smoothing it out and smoothing the edge of the rings. To decorate my napkin rings, I'm cutting different hearts. I'm obsessed with hearts, so that's why I chose them. I mean, I believe the best way to make sure a gift you make for someone else will be liked is to obviously like it yourself. So I'm making stuff I would love for myself or for my home. I cut the different hearts, smooth their edges out, and then I realized the rings I made were too wide for these. So I sliced them all in half. Because I sliced them, I had to smooth the edges again, and when I was done, I attached a heart to the center of each one, masking the joint even more. I put all 8 napkin rings on the cardboard tube from the aluminum foil so they won't collapse on themselves as they dry and they would keep their shape. Next day, and all 8 are dry and ready, so I carefully take them off the cardboard tube. For these ones, I also wanted that rustic look, so again, I'm taking out a little bit of paint from my marker by pumping the back, and I'm using it with a very wet brush to paint all of the rings. I painted the hearts with this very subtle eggshell color. It's almost the same color of the clay, almost, but not quite, so I needed to paint them all. Then I chose a couple of extra markers in these earthy, natural, raw colors to paint more details on the hearts. I had fun experimenting with things I could do to decorate them, and a couple of those things that I tried I didn't like, so I just let them dry and painted on top again. For the rest of the hearts, now I knew what I liked more, so I just kept it simple by using solid colors or just painting some stripes and dots on them. I don't know why stripes and polka dots are so fun to paint. They're fun, easy, and they make everything pretty. Here are the 8 napkin rings that I painted and of course also varnished. And I have one on a place setting so you can see how pretty they look on my table. Maybe I should keep them. And here is everything we made today. The letters with the tassels, my beautiful napkin rings, the cute incense holder smoking from the tiny chimney. You can see now there's a little incense cone in there and it works perfectly. Yay, it's very cute. Then there's my finished bear holding the cable in place so it doesn't slide off the table. And of course, my quirky cat ring dish, which came out adorable. I love this chubby cat. I am very happy with how all of these turned out, and I hope you enjoyed these ideas of gifts that are simple and easy to make, but still beautiful enough to be appreciated. Let me know which is your favorite. I hope that I'll see you next week. It will be a fun one because we'll have 2 videos, our regular Friday one and a little extra video on Wednesday. With that, I hope you have the most wonderful day. Bye!